Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall and Museum is a unique military memorial dedicated to honoring the men and women of all branches of service from all generations and conflicts. Recently, Lexi Kamphaus, special assignment host for the Veterans Channel, spoke with Michael Kraus, curator and historian for Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall and Museum.
Hello, I'm Lexi Kamphaus as special assignment host for the Veterans Channel, here today at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, sitting down with curator Michael Kraus. Thank you for joining us. Firstly, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this position.
Well, I've been interested in history since I was a little kid. And it started with, I found an Indian stone axe, a Native American stone axe in my backyard. I lived in Newcastle in western Pennsylvania here. And I was just amazed. I knew it was something that somebody made and didn't understand how it got there. And it just opened a door to a lot of questions. And thankfully, there was a teacher at my junior high school who was a kind of a budding historian, collector. And I was introduced to him and we became lifelong friends, but he got me excited and passionate about history and collecting history.
Awesome. And how did you wind up here as the curator at Soldiers and Sailors?
I've been working as, I have a degree in fine art, and I've been working as an artist and as a collector and a vendor of Civil War and military pieces. And I was good friends with the president here at the time. This is 15 years ago. And there was an opening for a curator. So I don't have a curating degree, I have a fine art degree, but I have a lot of background in material culture and things and objects and history and know what they are, and he offered me the job as curator. That's
amazing. And as your time here, we'll get into a little bit of background of what Soldiers and Sailors is, because a lot of people only know it as a graduation space, a wedding space, an event hall, but it's so much more than that. First of all, why is it located here in Pittsburgh? Do you know the significance behind that?
Yeah, sure. It opened in 1910. So when you look at your question, you have to look at the era that it was built. In 1910, Civil War veterans were, it was approaching the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the war. So the ones who were still alive at the time were getting older, in their 70s at the youngest. And even all around the country, these veterans are looking at establishing their legacy. In some cities, they would erect big statues of prominent leaders, or a small museum, or a sports field or a stadium or something. And in Pittsburgh, the veterans here decided they wanted to leave a public space dedicated to soldiers and sailors of the War of the Rebellion, which was the Civil War, their war. And that's how it came about.
And how is it maintained today?
Well, the building was owned and operated by Allegheny County until 1999. And at that point, Allegheny County really wasn't putting a lot into saving it. In fact, there was a situation where it might have been lost at that point in time. But there was a grassroots movement that sprang up and was granted a 501c3 charitable trust to run Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall. The county still owns the building, but we operate it.
And when you say you operate it, what all goes into that?
Well, we do the day-to-day maintenance of the building. We're responsible for raising our own funds to pay for staff. None of us are county employees, even though it's a county building. We are responsible for all the repairs, all the work that goes into it. So it's a big task. It's a big piece of property, and it requires a lot of money and energy, and that's what we're responsible for.
And do you get a lot of your money from donations from the public?
We get a lot of money from charitable, like the county or the state or museum commission. We do solicit money from the public. We could always use more if you're out there listening. But most of it comes from grants and things like that.
Okay. And what are some of the events that are held here?
We have a couple of fundraiser events. Probably the most well-known is the Cannonball. This year it's going to be in March. And it has been in the past a black tie event with dancing and cocktails. It's going to be a little more relaxed this year. We're going to do a mystery theater, like a whodunit thing. And we're going to involve the whole building. So that's going to be kind of fun. And we do other events. Primarily, I think the The most important event we do that's not a fundraiser is Memorial Day. We have a great ceremony recognizing American soldiers who have fallen in battle, and then we have a lawn program where it's more like a picnic that we're used to having on Memorial Day. And we have other programs running all year. There's educational programs, there's speakers. Our auditorium is rented out, so you'll find a lot of things going on there that we don't put on, but it's being used quite a bit.
So people can rent out the spaces in this hall for their needs?
Yeah, they can rent, first floor up from the auditorium, the Gettysburg room, the Hall of Valor, which we're in now. There are a lot of conferences that are held here. And on our third floor, we have a ballroom, which is booked pretty much all year for weddings. It's a really extraordinary space.
And if someone were to come in and want a tour, what are your tours like that you put on?
Well, we have two types of tours. One is a general tour. Let's say a bus visitors wants to come and have a tour. So there's a fee, and we provide a docent or two. If it's a large group, we'll split it up, and we'll walk around and show them the perimeter areas on this first floor where our displays and exhibits are held, and talk about our themes that we represent. And you can have a VIP tour, which is a different type of tour. We limit it to, I think, 10 people, and there's a fee. It's a fundraiser, and on that tour you get to see not only the bottom floor, but we have a lunch, and then we go behind the scenes. We go into our storage rooms, we go into the vault, which is a great place, and we show people things that they normally wouldn't see.
And for example, what are those types of things?
In the vault, we have a large collection of Civil War swords. We have our diaries, photographs, machine guns, World War II machine guns, a lot of firearms, the stuff that really, we also have other storage areas, but the vault has things that really are not accessible to anybody but myself or the collection manager.
And how would someone go about booking a VIP tour?
You can do it on our website. There's a page on our website that could be booked, or you can contact Tim Neff at Soldiers and Sailors. It's at soldiersandSailorsMemorialHall.org.
Okay, perfect. And the room we're sitting in right now is the Hall of Valor. What is the significance of this room?
Well, the room started off, there are two rooms that match, one on this side and one on the other. The other is the Gettysburg room. We'll talk about that later. This originally was called the Shiloh room, and Shiloh was a battle in the Civil War, just like Gettysburg. In the Grand Army of the Republic, those were Civil War veterans, had their meetings here. And after the last ones passed, that's why it's so beautiful with the oak paneling and the bronze chandeliers and lighting fixtures. It started to be just used for other veterans meetings. And in 1963, they decided to initiate a program honoring Allegheny County heroes. And that meant people who had earned a certain tier of medal for gallantry. So Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross, Medal of Honor. And applicants could apply, they were vetted, and then they were, there's a ceremony and we give them a plaque. So as you look around, you see all these plaques. This is only a fraction of what we have. We have 800 inductees in the Hall of Valor. What you see mostly on these three walls are Medal of Honor recipients. And the front of the room has recipients that were in the past year or two. And we do this every year. We have another, we call them class of inductees.
Now the name of this hall changed to Soldiers and Sailors, and it was formerly...
originally Allegheny County Soldiers Memorial. That's in 1910, that's what it was called. But quickly, I think people who were veterans, Navy veterans, said, hey, what about us? And the name was changed at that point in time. Now, of course, there are other branches of service, Marines, Air Force, and so on, that aren't named in our title, but in our mission, we cover all those different branches.
Otherwise, the name would just be too long.
We'd need new stationery.
Exactly. But I think that you've done a very good job incorporating, especially inside here, basically what it means to be a soldier and sailor, but it's very, very well done.
Thank you.
And this whole building started as more of a Civil War dedication. Now throughout the years, I've seen you added to that. You've included most of the wars that we've been in, and I can't wait to get into a little bit of that with you when we walk around. But thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Sure, yeah, I'm anxious to show you.
Can't wait.
These are the medals representing all branches that are for gallantry or valor in combat. And these are also the medals that we use as the bar to be inducted into the Hall of Valor. So there are many, many more medals, but one of these has to be the ones if a person is applying to be in the Hall of Valor as an inductee. So it starts at the top with the very highest medal. This is the highest medal that the government gives, and that's the Medal of Honor. And you see there are 3 of them because there are 3 different patterns. This one on the left is for the Army. The second one is for the Air Force, and it's great because it has lightning bolts and all kinds of things going on. And the third is the Navy, and Marines would also get that pattern as well. And below that, the next tier is Distinguished Service Cross, the Army's version on the left, the Air Force Cross in the center, and the Navy Cross is the Navy's version of that medal. Silver Star is a gallantry in action against an opposing force. Distinguished Flying Cross, and then these are versions of the Soldier's Medal, which is for saving a life, voluntary risk of your own life to save a life. And there's the Army pattern, the Air Force pattern, and the Navy pattern.
Now, when people get awarded these medals and they want inducted into the Hall of Valor, do they get to keep their medal or do they surrender it to be on display?
No, they keep their medal. All we need is proof that we need the citation. We vet every inductee, and sometimes the families will give us their medal. But that's a very personal thing. That medal belongs to them. And sometimes it's a generation or 2 afterwards, and a family doesn't know what to do with it, like what heir to give it to, or don't want to have it.
It's best to honor it on display.
Right, and put it on display or in an archive here where we can take care of it.
Now, is that something that is typically on loan, or is it donated and it's here?
We don't take loans, so we only accept medals that are given to us.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this the plaques on this wall represent one class, 1 year's worth of inductees.
Okay.
So when you look at the plaque, right away you can see what conflict the person was in. World War II, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Vietnam. And then also you'll see the medal. The medal's pictured, the Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross, Silver Star, Soldier's Medal, Navy Cross. And then the family will usually provide us, we'd like to have a photograph of the individual. So that's in the right-hand corner at the top. And the wording is from the actual citation. In fact, it is the actual citation that the individual was awarded the medal for. So it's the language of the citation exactly. And then we try to find an illustration. Sometimes a family can provide it, like of the plane or the guys fighting. Otherwise, we search something that relates to the citation. And we house these for a period of 2 years. Each class will be up for 2 years. And then they get digitally placed in an archive that is searchable. That's in this room, so people can look for their family member or others that are in our... We have 800 of them, actually.
And what happens with these physical pictures?
The physical ones get stored upstairs.
Okay.
Before they're shot in digital, then they get stored upstairs. So this is a master copy. The family can request one, and we will make them one. And if you visit here and you're related to somebody and you would like one, there's also a version that could be printed at our front computer, a smaller version that could be printed.
And standing in front of this plaque is a Frederick Monahan who received the Navy Cross during Vietnam. And he has a very long description here compared to some other ones. So if you want to get into some of the details about this one specifically.
Yeah, the Navy Cross, let me say first, is the second highest award, only under the Medal of Honor. So for a recipient to get a Navy Cross, it's pretty spectacular. And he's 3rd Marine Division, 2nd Battalion, E Company. And it was extreme heroism in connection with operations against the enemy in May of 1967. And it goes on, remember, this is the actual citation. So it goes on to talk about how the enemy penetrated their perimeter, and he boldly launched a single-handed assault with rifle and grenades. And I want to say that when we presented this plaque and award, he was here. So he's standing on stage while this is being read, which is amazing. It's an amazing, for me as a historian, to hear this plaque and then see the individual standing there. And it goes on to talk more about repulsed enemy assaults, killing determined enemy soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. And again, remember, you're looking at this guy who earned it. And they pinned him down, and he maintained his position. So this is, by his intrepid fighting spirit, exceptional fortitude, and gallant initiative, Lance Corporal Monahan served to inspire all those who observed him contribute to the large measure of the success of his unit repelling the attackers.
And here he is standing in front of you, just a normal guy that no one would even know that went through all this.
You would never know. You would never.
Now, something like this, the spoon and knife, those were their eating utensils, I would only assume. And they would have these on them or in their pack? Would they be like on themselves or in a pack somewhere else?
No, they'd be on it. They wore a pouch called a haversack.
So everything that they pretty much needed day to day, they wore.
Yeah.
I can only imagine after so much that gets a little heavy.
Especially in 90-degree temperature and humidity. It's very hot and heavy.
Now, does this pouch with the belt buckle, now did everybody receive one of these, or was this significant to certain soldiers?
This one would have been worn by a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant or a corporal. And that he was an artillery soldier, so he carried a sword. Those are the loops to carry the sword, and most likely a pistol, because that's a pistol box, although the pistol isn't with this belt. But that's where the ammunition would have been.
And these patches that went on the shoulders, now what does the 1 star
That's a brigadier general.
Okay.
So that's a general who was from Pittsburgh. His name was Rowley, Thomas A. Rowley. And those are his straps. We call them shoulder straps, and his eating utensils. So you see how nice his eating utensils are? They're ivory.
Yeah.
And then the common soldier ones are just...
so they even a general's got nicer utensils.
Sure.
I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
Now this hat with the cannons that are crossed with the F, what does that signify?
Well, that shows the branch of service. The cannons is artillery.
Okay.
So this is an artillery soldier, and he's in Battery F, which is Hampton's battery, and they were right from Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
And that was worn at the Battle of Gettysburg. That hat was worn there.
And it made its way all the way back.
Yeah, we have his uniform too. That's his belt, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And we do have his uniform. It's not displayed. Rebuilding the artillery case, so when that's done, it'll be in there.
Here we get into a couple different rifles that they used.
Yeah.
Starting with the top one, I have a very, very big question about that second one, but starting with the top one, who would be someone to carry that with all there's little etching in the barrel?
Again, you're very observant. It's great. These are weapons that a private, a corporal, or a sergeant would carry in the infantry.
Okay.
This is the primary weapon of the Civil War. Each one of these is a primary weapon. The top one was made in England. In the Civil War, we didn't have enough weapons, so we looked to Europe to purchase weapons. So this is an English-made rifle called an Enfield. And it belonged to a soldier in the 149th Pennsylvania Infantry. And they're rather famous because they came from, one company came from Allegheny County, but most of them came from northern Pennsylvania. And they were all hunters and outdoorsmen, so they were very good shots.
Yes.
So they were called sharpshooters, even though that word means a little different then than it means today. And George Allison was a member of that regiment. At Gettysburg, they played a really prominent part in the very first day and lost many soldiers. Many of them were killed there. This rifle was carried by him, and he kept a diary of every battle that he was in and carved it in the stock. So,
I know earlier I said barrel, but I did mean stock.
Yeah, okay.
But
there's 20 battles.
He almost ran out of room.
He did. He's all the way up here. And he's got Gettysburg on there, which makes it particularly valuable.
Yeah, and I can see he has not only writing, but little like sketches in there.
Yeah, there's little designs carved in there.
Wow, that's very, very special. Now this one, barrel.
Yeah.
Is that a bullet hole?
That is.
It's
struck. It's been struck. It's been struck by an iron ball that came out of a cannon called canister shot.
Okay, so more like a
like a spray, exactly. Yeah. So whenever I look at this, I picture this thing getting hit and flying in the air and crashing down and breaking the stock at the same time. Yeah, because the stock
is broken on it too.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy was holding that, who knows, well, he's gone. But I think it twirled around and came down and cracked the stock. We don't know exactly what battle it came from, but it's pretty typical of weapons that were used or damaged at Gettysburg as well.
On the back wall of the Gettysburg room, you have this huge painting. Now, Michael, you're going to have to walk me through the significance of this.
It is a painting depicting the battle between the Kearsarge and the Alabama, United States ship and a Confederate state ship. Okay. And that battle happened off the coast of France in 1864, because the Confederates needed to bring material from Europe. They couldn't manufacture it, so they had to have open shipping. And the Alabama was a Confederate raider that would go after U.S. ships, capture them, and take the stuff off them, or protect Confederate ships that were going back and forth. So there was a duel between the Kearsarge and the Alabama was sunk off of Cherbourg, France. So this depicts that scene.
Wow, I don't even think, I'm a history buff, and I don't even think I knew anything about even water battles in the Civil War. You just don't hear about it. Now, when was this painted?
I can't answer that. I don't know. It appears to be painted in the late 1800s, just by the style.
Right.
And look at that monster frame. I mean, the frame is unreal.
Like, you're never going to find that again.
No.
I wonder how much that roughly weighs.
I would venture it weighs at least 100 or more pounds, that frame. Yeah.
Back in 1910 or even early 1900s, I know they did not have the machinery that we have now. Right. So lifting these huge cement blocks, roughly how long did this take?
Well, the construction was started in 1908 and it opened in 1910. Okay. So it took 2 years to build. And it's sandstone. The whole front is sandstone.
Okay.
So those are steam-operated derrick lifts that pivot. And you can see a good one here. And the lines come here, and there would be a steam engine somewhere in this area that would power a belt that would pull the pulleys and lift the stones into place. But you can see all the building equipment and all the roughing out of different parts of the hall here, including the auditorium, where you'll see later. It's such a big, large open space. You can see why it's open, because it's kind of framed on this bridge work that doesn't need anything within it to make it big.
Yeah, so they had to really get some beams to reinforce the openness of it. Now, they're looking like they're making a little progress in this photo.
Yeah, it's coming along here. But you could look at Oakland here, too.
Right.
Okay, so this is where the University of Pittsburgh is now. Mm-hmm. There was a house there. That's the Schenley Hotel, the Pitt Student Union, that precedes this building. It was here before. And that's the Carnegie Museum, or that's the Frick Museum back there. The Carnegie Museum would be right beside it. So there's very little here at the time.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on, we see, all right, we have
the building's gone up.
We have walls, we have a roof.
We have columns. These are roofing tiles that are going to go up on the roof. These are parts of the facade that are going to go on there. That's the back side of them. And
then this one, is this completely done? Like, other than obviously the lawn.
Yeah, May 15, 1910.
Okay.
So the exterior is completed, and they're most likely working on the interior to get it ready for the October opening date. And again, there's nothing here.
You know.
That building, I think, is still here, but this is just all crowded and congested now with university buildings.
Yeah. Now, this looks like what the auditorium is.
Mm-hmm.
So what is taking place right now?
Well, this is a significant date. That's why the photo is so large.
Okay.
This is opening day on October 11th, 1910.
Okay.
So when we go in the auditorium, you'll see the Gettysburg Address. Remember this picture, because the auditorium looks exactly the same now as it did then.
Okay.
This is the upper balcony. These are the windows that go all the way around. And this is the main floor seating. So the guests of honor that day were all Civil War veterans. So all these men here are all Civil War veterans who attended the opening that day. On stage were the board members, and this is General Daniel Sickles. He was a hero, another hero of Gettysburg. He lost his leg there.
I was gonna say, like he has a crutch and
yeah,
one
he doesn't
leg.
have a leg. Yeah, and there are Medal of Honor recipients. There's an orchestra. There's dignitaries. All the flags from the different GAR posts, which we have many of them in our collection. But the thing, after studying this photo, the thing I discovered I think was really neat. There's a guy right here with a big camera. See him taking that picture? He's taking this picture.
Oh.
So we start to look, there's the camera here taking that picture. So they were both taking probably, 1, 2, 3, snap. And there's a woman in here.
Okay.
So women were not soldiers.
No.
And they couldn't be members of the Grand Army of the Republic. But there was a post in Pittsburgh. This woman's name was Anna Sharp McDowell. She did everything for them. She organized their meetings, she sang at the openings, she organized the picnics, so they made her an honorary member, and she was able to sit there.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. So the architect, Henry Hornbostel, wanted this place to be kind of neoclassic, so these are classic elements, and in a classic Greek or Roman structure, a temple or cathedral, they would be filled with a statue in each one of them. So he envisioned that these would be places for statuary.
Okay.
And he thought that the people of Allegheny County would purchase 35 statues to put in these niches, which didn't happen. It just didn't happen. So as the collection started to come in the 1910s and 20s, they took 4 of these spaces. There are 2 of them right here. You can see the older looking cases with the brass and the windows.
Yeah.
And they built those cases and they started to put parts of the collection in there. And then these places were filled with other things until like the 1970s when it was decided that this place could be a museum, and they built these other cases. So we've been filling them and deciding how to interpret our collection and what we'd like to show since that time.
Well, they fit in perfectly. It's almost like this was planned.
Yeah, almost.
Almost, but very, very loose. But it fits in very, very perfectly. And they go all the way down the hallway.
All the way around the auditorium.
All right.
Yeah, on all 3 walls.
I love how the main focus is a dog. That's
Well,
my
that's
favorite.
a very famous dog.
Tell me the story about this guy.
His name is Dog Jack. So
Okay, well, very simple there.
and he was a mascot. There was a fire company, not a volunteer fire company, but a fire company not far from here called the Niagara Company. And Jack used to wander in. He was a stray, and they threw things at him and kicked him and knocked him out, and they broke his leg one day. And they felt, see, your reaction is exactly what they thought. They had him, they nursed him back to shape, and he became very attached to them. He rode to fires on the fire engine with them and everything.
So he is basically the original fire dog, if you think about it.
He could be the original fire dog.
I love that.
And then when they signed up to go to war, he went with them.
Of course.
And he was in a number of battles. He was wounded twice, captured twice, escaped once, and he was exchanged for a Confederate officer once.
Wow.
But he disappeared. They bought him a silver collar, and he's wearing it in that picture. And he disappeared in 1863 in Frederick, Maryland. People surmise that somebody got him for his collar. They wanted the collar.
And continuing down the hall here, we came across this African Americans in the Civil War. Now, did you have a rough number, especially up in the Union soldiers, how many were roughly African American?
Yeah, the Union Army, well, first of all, African Americans couldn't come into the Army until 1863.
Okay.
But the door opened with the Emancipation Proclamation, and 300,000 or more African Americans joined the Union Army. So there's quite a number of African Americans.
That's a very, very large chunk.
It is. And not only that, but Pittsburgh had a contribution. I think there are 25 or 30 soldiers that came from Allegheny County. But what we're representing here is not just their service from soldier to citizen, which is what this portrays, but the Grand Army of the Republic, when they met here, this was a place that consolidated all the local posts from around the area. And one of those posts was an African American post.
Okay.
So, and that's very rare.
Yeah.
And there are very, very few of them. And this is the personal war sketchbook that belonged to post number 206, the Colonel Robert Gould Shaw post. This is a facsimile because we didn't want the real one to get bent by light or anything. Mm-hmm. But I have it open to a page that I really love because, well, first of all, these books were, when you became a member, you sat down with the post historian and you kind of narrated your story.
Wow, okay.
So our book has 250 stories of African American soldiers who later lived in Pittsburgh, who were members of this post. But this one talks about, his name was Matthew Nesbit. And the thing I really loved, and it struck me the most when I read it, was a sentence here that says, "I was a slave and was owned by William Knight of Goring County, Georgia. At the close of the war, I was mustered out of the service at Nashville, Tennessee in April of 1866. So here's a man saying, I was a slave. Not just somebody who was a slave, or reading about slaves. This guy was a slave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks about his service where he got captured, he escaped, he got sick. It's really a pretty remarkable service.
Wow.
And he lived 3 blocks from here, which
That's
is really
incredible.
amazing.
A story that you would probably never hear again.
That's right. It's so true.
Walking up on this display of the Spanish-American War, I recognize one person in this display, and that's Teddy Roosevelt down here. Obviously, he was a military man. I think everyone should know that.
Should know that.
Everyone should know that about Teddy
right.
Roosevelt. Now, what is his significance in this case?
Well, he commanded a cavalry regiment that charged up San Juan Hill. That's what he's famous for. I mean, he wasn't a military man prior to that. He got appointed as the colonel of this regiment and acted quite bravely, mounted on a horse, charging up the hill. And that was kind of an eye-opener for him to become president in his path to the
natural
presidency.
leader.
Yeah, and the publicity helped him a lot. Yeah. So we don't own anything of his, but if you notice, this canvas uniform is the same type of uniform that Roosevelt's wearing. And this is a tropical uniform that was adopted in the Spanish-American War, because all of our other uniforms were wool and dark and heavy. So this is the very first tropical uniform worn by a guy in the 16th Pennsylvania Infantry named Dunlap. And that's actually a photograph of him wearing that coat, which I found on eBay. And that's him wearing that coat, which was also on eBay in the same photo lot years ago. We were able to pick those up.
And I can tell just by the size, this man was very petite. Underfed is a word that comes to mind.
People were much smaller.
Yes.
I mean, they were very much smaller.
This is pre-McDonald's.
The pre-McDonald's, that's true. Yeah. And those are his campaign medals and his membership medals for the Spanish-American War Veterans Organization. And there's a number of U.S. Navy medals from the Spanish-American War as well. And that medal is a National Commander's Medal for the Spanish-American War Veterans. It's gold, and it has a ruby eye in the eagle. You see the little ruby eye in the eagle?
Wow. Like something like this would be priceless, essentially.
Yeah. Well, we know who it belonged to. He actually was the director here at one time. So it has a tie to us, and he was in a national position of prominence. And you also see back there, in Teddy Roosevelt's charge, right next to Roosevelt's Rough Riders was the 10th U.S. Cavalry, which were African-American soldiers. They were nicknamed Buffalo Soldiers. But they actually had more fighting in that battle than Roosevelt's Rough Riders and didn't really receive the same attention.
Didn't get credit for it.
Right.
Wow, that's extreme significance to have all of this here. Again, something that keeps us talking about it.
Right, we have to talk about it.
Exactly. We have now moved into the infamous auditorium that we talk so much about, especially in the Gettysburg room. And what Michael has told me is it is exactly the same as how it was when it opened in 1910. And with the significance of the Gettysburg Address on here, which is still the original writing Everything is original in this room. So tell us, why do you think they put the Gettysburg Address?
Well, we have notes about the building and how it was built and the decisions they made. What they wanted was a mural depicting Abraham Lincoln's life, different vignettes of Lincoln's life. They didn't save enough money to have an artist paint that. So rather than that, they thought that this embodied Lincoln. And it also embodied why they fought in the Civil War, you know, the cause of the war. So they had this Gettysburg Address painted on there. And it's been, we saw it in the opening day photographs.
Right.
It's never been taken down, retouched, or repainted. It's the same painting.
And walking into this room, I don't know if I can accurately describe the grandness of it. And we see it in pictures. We see it's this big hole in the middle of this place. But it is truly, especially back in the time period, to build this and to put that much detail and things like the lighting, the ceiling, is really, really special to see. Now, present day, what type of events take place in this room?
Well, it's a 2,300 seat auditorium. So it's one of the biggest public spaces in Oakland. And because of that, we get a lot of graduations. We get Pitt, CMU, Chatham, all the colleges will graduate here. A number of high schools will graduate here. Now, during COVID, that's changed somewhat, and we're waiting for those spaces to be filled again. But it's, we have the Hall of Valor induction in here.
Okay.
In concerts, there are concerts in here, political rallies. Several presidents have spoken here.
Wow.
Bruce Springsteen's played here 4 times.
Wow.
He loves the place.
Yeah.
So we hope he comes back.
Yeah.
So it works for music, graduations, even some weddings have been held on the stage.
Yeah, I think this room, even though it's an auditorium, it's a sit-down type of thing, but I think it's one of the most beautiful ones I've seen as far as detail and what this all means to our country and our history. It's really, really special to see.
Yeah, I remember, my best memory of that in reference is President Obama came and spoke here. And when he came out on the stage, the first thing he did was turn around and he said, "I can't believe I'm speaking here in front of these words."
Yeah.
And that was just so powerful. It was really amazing. And that kind of summed it up, you know, how
Honestly,
important
how else could you describe it?
Yeah, how a president of the United States would pay homage to another president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for showing me all this.
There's so much more to be seen here at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall and Museum. For more information on tours and other activities, contact Michael Kraus, Curator, at 412-621-4253, extension 215. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Veterans Channel.